everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm Jen Hanft, as Amelia just said, and I work at the State Library of North Carolina as Head of Content and Information Delivery for the North Carolina Government and Heritage Library. It's really nice to see so many of you here today. And I guess that shows how many of us are interested in leadership issues, specifically on how to grow professionally, even if it's outside of climbing that traditional career ladder. Maybe you're here because you haven't found the right position to advance into as your next step, or maybe it's because you love your current job and don't want to leave it, but you want to lead however you can from within it. Or maybe you're feeling stuck and need ideas on how to kickstart that forward momentum. Whatever your reason for being here, welcome. We're going to be having some interactive pieces to this session today. So if you're willing and able to turn on your camera, it would be really great to see you and really helpful for interaction. But if you can't, or if you don't feel comfortable turning on your camera, I completely understand, and we can still do the interactive pieces either way. Just so that you guys are aware, I'm kind of trying to focus my attention between two screens to sort of manage all the multiple folks that are in the room, as well as my slides. But I wanted to mention that if you have questions or thoughts to share throughout the session, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute and share, or you can wait until the end when we'll have time for questions. I'm going to try and keep an eye on all of you on this screen on one side so that I can see if anybody's raising their hand or has questions in chat. But if I don't get to you right away, just feel free to unmute and jump right in. So I'd like to start with a quick look at our session outcomes for today. We're going to focus on three key areas: leadership, the growth mindset, and self-awareness. We'll identify strategic career activities that can help increase your forward momentum and build your leadership skills. And I'll ask you to think about one objective that you can implement to launch a positive career trajectory. That's going to be my difficult word for the day. I can see it now. We'll also consider the importance of a growth mindset in career advancement, and you'll have the opportunity to analyze your own professional challenges to learn how to turn them into opportunities. And finally, we'll discuss the role that self-awareness plays in building your career and how to leverage the negative to affect growth and positive change in your professional work. First, though, I'd like to start with a poll. So many of us have been asked or have at least heard that old standby interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So I'd like you to think about that and think about your current position, work role, or leadership status. Is where you're at today where you thought you would be 5 years ago? So take a minute or two to think and select the response that best fits for you. Yes, I'm right where I thought I'd be and I'm satisfied. I'm not where I expected to be, but it's the right place or position for me right now. I thought I'd be supervising or managing or leading something or someone by now, or I'm stuck in a rut professionally and I can't seem to get out. Okay, so far it looks like we're in sort of a happy place with the folks who are satisfied or who feel like they're in the right position right now in the lead. But I'll go ahead and give you just another 30 seconds or so. And all of this is anonymous, so don't be afraid to pop in your answer if that's what's holding you back. Okay, last call and okay, so it looks like we've got a good portion of folks who aren't where they thought they'd be 5 years ago, or however long it's been if you started your career less than that ago. But there are a number of people in the room who feel like they need to get into the right position or feel like they're stuck in a rut. So I think this will be a helpful session for all of us. Whether you were one of the folks who responded from those first two perspectives and are satisfied, that's great. And if you have some suggestions to share as we talk through things today, I welcome your perspectives. Or whether you gave the response that you're looking for more or stuck in a rut, I think at whatever stage of your career you're at, the things we're going to talk about can be really helpful, because the foundation really of advancing your career lies in taking that leadership role, being self-aware, and having a growth mindset. So let's start by thinking about your career trajectory. When most people think about something like career trajectory, the trajectory they picture is probably going to have a pretty steep upward slope, right? But if you start thinking about that trajectory in a different way, rather than going up, or maybe in order to go up, think about advancement or moving yourself forward. So let's talk for a minute about what that means. I'd like you to take a minute to think about what advancement means to you in terms of your career. You're going to see on screen a few ideas of what advancement can mean. So I'd like you to use your Zoom annotation tools. So you're going to go into the toolbar and click on View Options and then Annotate from that drop-down menu. And then you can select either the stamp and put a check mark by any of the options that are listed on your screen that you agree with. Or if you think something's missing from the list, click on the text option and type it in the white space. I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to put down their checks or their additional ideas, and then we'll talk about that. And if there's anything that you feel that's missing from this list, like I said, go ahead and just write that in. I'll give you just another moment and we'll go ahead and talk through what we've got here. Okay, so I think we can see from the list that a large number of folks really think about promotion in terms of advancement, that traditional upward trajectory, and actually advancing in terms of position. But there are also a lot of folks who think that leadership opportunities or being happier in your job can also mean career advancement. So you've got those traditional those traditionally held beliefs of promotion, making more money, supervising people, having that top level view. But advancement doesn't always mean those traditional things. It can mean those things, but even if you're not doing those things, you can still be advancing your career if you're moving to a better, more satisfying position. Or if you're making a strategic move to better position yourself for promotion, or if you're increasing your knowledge or building your skills or raising your profile and leadership abilities. Those are all things that can advance your career. This type of advancement can be achieved by a lateral move with more responsibility or program management, a shift into a different type of library, or a specialty that grows your skill sets, or by moving into a position in an organization with a culture that you respect or whose values align with your professional beliefs and goals. So these types of moves can help you build that forward momentum in your career. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into other ways in which you can do that. But first, let's unpack the concept of momentum. When I think about momentum, my brain automatically flashes back to physics class, and that's a hard pass for me. Nope. So let's reframe that concept of momentum. When I was looking for a really career appropriate, as opposed to physics appropriate definition of momentum, I came across this idea that you see on screen, that momentum combines understanding the energy of self-awareness with a set of actions. So if you think about it, you build momentum in your career by being aware of what you need or what you want, gaps to fill in your skill set, knowledge that you need to build, connections that you should make, or goals that you want to set, and the actions that can start you on your path forward toward achieving those objectives, or that can position you for success. So in my experience, there are any number of things that you can do to build that forward momentum and to get yourself started on that path to career advancement. But there are 6 main steps forward that I think are most important and really most fruitful, the ones that can benefit you most and that we're going to focus on are mentoring, networking, leading from where you are, building your reputation, learning how to communicate well, and setting your intentions. And if you see others that don't necessarily fall under one of these categories that you think would be helpful to share, then I encourage you to jump in, and you can put them in chat, you can raise your hand, whatever works for you. But I think we would all benefit from hearing everyone's perspectives. So we'll start with mentoring. Mentoring isn't just a one-directional or one-time process. It can occur at multiple stages throughout the different levels of your career, or it can happen just at that point of need, at a key point in your career development. Sometimes you think that having a mentor might just be for newbies, or being a mentor might just be for that sort of established old guard, the people who've been in the profession and are the key players or the big names. It's not something that folks just entering the profession or who are students in library school can benefit from. And it's not something that library directors or senior managers are best at. In fact, I've found that when you have imposter syndrome. When you're at that crucial point in your career, when you know things and you have experience to share, and you have that valid knowledge, but you don't feel like an expert yet, one of the best ideas I've seen to cure imposter syndrome and gain confidence is to mentor out of it. So finding or becoming a mentor isn't something that necessarily just happens, though there are programs out there that can connect mentors and mentees. It can often just be a relationship that grows organically out of a trusted relationship, a professional supervisor-supervisee relationship, or a more senior coworker in a different department, or in a similar department in a different organization. So my mentors personally have been trusted former supervisors who have since become friends. And beyond becoming friends, I think we've gone through multiple stages, that sort of supervisor-supervisee, mentor-mentee, critical friends. And for those of you who may not be aware of what a critical friend is, does anyone want to share who is aware? So the critical friend relationship is something that I learned about in an NCLA conference session not last year, 2019, through a UNCG presentation. And it's basically the concept of having a trusted colleague or group of coworkers who can give you that honest perspective that you're looking for, that critical feedback to help you grow, to help you improve. Because so often when we're seeking feedback on projects that we're working on, or on work that we do, or things that we've written, we don't necessarily want to send it to straight colleagues, because we're looking for someone with a little more context, or who might give a perspective that's really valuable to what we're trying to achieve. But we also don't want to send it to just straight friends, because they don't have the perspective that we need to improve, or to find out what needs to be addressed, or where the gaps are, or where the problems are. And so critical friends sort of bridge that gap, and they're people who you can share things with, who can share things with you, and you've got that trusted relationship to give honest and valuable feedback to help you improve and grow. So, so my mentors have gone through that stage and really into friends as we've really developed that relationship. That might be what works for you in a mentoring relationship. It may not. I've also mentored student workers who, when I worked in academic libraries, who were just there for a short period of time, but who I worked with really closely, and am excited to see the great things that they move on to. And field experience grad students who I've worked with closely, who then, as they began their careers, we kept in touch and offered feedback, and sort of developed again into that critical friends role. So mentoring doesn't have to be a long-term thing. It doesn't have to be one of those relationships that I just talked about that sort of spans multiple stages, or or evolves in different ways. It can be short term, and it also doesn't necessarily have to be named. You don't have to, shake hands on, yes, we're going to have a mentor-mentee relationship, or yes, I'll mentor you, or things like that. But it does need to be mutually agreeable. So if you'd like someone to mentor you, have a discussion with them, see if they have time. If you're working closely with someone and think that you have some good perspective to offer them, talk to them about, what you can do together to work together to help them. It's a conversation, and it can really evolve and be fruitful on both sides. So building a pool of professional contacts isn't just helpful for mentoring. It helps you create a network that will grow and evolve over the course of your career. Networking helps you hear about upcoming jobs, or helps jobs hear about great candidates. I don't know about other folks, but when I have open positions and I see people apply who I know, who are known quantities, I get really excited because I know what they're capable of, or I've worked with them before, or someone I know knows them. And it just feels easier somehow. Networking also gives you a diverse pool of perspectives to give you feedback, because you don't want to hear things in an echo chamber. You want that diverse feedback from people at different levels, or in different types of libraries, or with different skill sets or experiences that can really help you grow and give you meaningful, substantial feedback. Having a professional network can do something as basic yet high impact as helping you feel better about putting yourself out there in new situations. When there are other people that you know there, it just makes it easier. I mean, think about giving a presentation or attending a professional event. It's so much easier when you know someone else there, right? There are lots of opportunities out there to build your professional network, including professional association conference sessions, social events. There's Devin and Amelia talked earlier about the lunchtime discussion that they're having today. That's a great networking opportunity. It's sort of low pressure. It's not even in person, so that removes that whole barrier. And it can help you build your professional network and get to know people. Your alumni association can also be really helpful in building your professional network, and volunteering for committees or for other kinds of service to the profession can be immensely fruitful in building your network. I'd like to hear if you guys have any thoughts or any what's your experience in terms of networking and building your professional pool of contacts? Is there anything that you feel like has particularly worked for you, or that's been really hard that you thought would be a good way to do it, but hasn't quite worked? Okay, well, now you've got some opportunities to try some new things out, and hopefully if I see you again at some point in the future, give me some feedback about what has really worked for you. Hannah says that being open about her work experiences with colleagues has helped build real relationships. I think that's great because everyone feels alone in those hard experiences that they have on the job. And knowing that someone else out there is having a difficult time with this, or has experienced this frustrating thing, or has shared an experience that you can honestly talk about what has worked, what hasn't, what they've tried, what you've tried. That can not only help build your professional network, but it can, as Hannah said, really help forge a relationship in that shared experience. Eric says that working group committees, both at work and with organizations like the Community College Association, the Community College Library Association, and NC Live, and working outside of libraries throughout his college has really worked for him. I absolutely agree. I think the professional volunteer opportunities that I've had through NCLA and through other organizations have been probably the single most impactful thing that I've done in building my professional network. But your professional network isn't necessarily just aligned with your job or the work that you do every day. Like Eric said, working outside of the library with other departments can be immensely helpful. The conversations when I was an academic librarian with our transfer student advisors and student advising department were incredibly helpful in giving me feedback on ideas that I had in the library for the work that I did. And in fact, teaching information literacy classes for some of the courses in the math and computer science department built my professional network with that faculty. And then long after I left academic libraries, they came back to me and said, hey, we have this adjunct position teaching some ethics and information courses and database management and spreadsheets. And I think your background really matches. Are you interested? And those kinds of opportunities would never have come available if I didn't have a professional network outside of my traditional career role or outside of libraries. So yeah, those are really great perspectives. So even if you're not in a leadership or management role, seek out ways to lead from where you are. Talk to your supervisor about your desire to grow your leadership skills. Volunteer to take on a project or lead a committee. Look for professional opportunities to build leadership skills. I know that some folks in public libraries around the state have city or county emerging leaders opportunities, and those folks who have gone through those kinds of programs have found them to be immensely helpful in developing their leadership skills. And not only that, but something that that their library leadership and their county leadership has really supported them through. The NCLA Leadership Institute is probably the single most valuable professional experience I have ever had. In terms of helping me think through a leadership project that I could implement in my work, in terms of building a professional network, a cohort in that Leadership Institute class that I've now come up through my career with for 10 years, who have become, through that shared Leadership Institute experience, which was really intense and exhausting, and you very much forge tight bonds through, we've become critical friends and personal friends. And every year at the NCLA conference or at other conferences or at library events throughout the state, when you see people who you have shared that experience with, it really is great to see them again. It's like friends coming home kind of thing. But volunteering for committees, leading projects at work, if there's something big that's coming down the pike at your organization that you think, yeah, that really interests me, it excites me, I think I have some good perspective to share, and it would really help me grow my leadership skills, volunteer for it. Talk to your supervisor, see if that's something that you might be able to participate in or lead. Another thing that kind of combines networking with leading from where you are is building your professional reputation. And I don't think people really give a whole lot of thought to their professional reputation and what it says about them or what it means to other people. It's not really something that I've seen a whole lot of focus on or heard a whole lot about, but I think it's very, very important in advancing your career. The more people who know you or who know of you and who you've worked with or volunteered with or who have seen or experienced the quality of work that you do, the great ideas that you have, the effort and dependability that you can be counted on for, the better your professional reputation will be. In building your professional reputation, the more people will think of you when they have great opportunities that can move your career forward. And yes, it can lead to more work. And sometimes you have the capacity for that, and sometimes you might have a little bit less capacity, but it can also lead to great opportunities to grow your skills, to lead you toward new and exciting challenges. I've been asked to give presentations on topics that were totally outside of the realm of topics that I usually present on, because folks had seen me present and they knew me. They were critical friends, or they were part of my professional network, or I had volunteered on a committee with some of them. And they knew that I had experience in those areas, even if it wasn't my primary job focus. They wanted someone to really engage with the audience. And so they asked me if I would do it. And my first thought was, what do I know about that topic? And then I thought, wait, I do actually know about this topic. Why would they ask me? Wait, this is an honor that they've asked me. And it turns something scary and, oh, no, I can't do that, into this would be a really great opportunity for me. And it can snowball, it can lead to other great opportunities. So what are some ways that you guys can think of to build your professional reputation, or ways that maybe you have built your professional reputations? Eric says that his thing in recent years has always been saying yes. Shonda Rhimes had a book called The Year of Yes that was all about saying yes to opportunities that came available. It was, I don't know, maybe 2017 or 2018 it was published, because she had found herself saying no to a lot of things because she's too busy, she's got too much going on, she just wants to relax or things like that. That's a really good perspective to have, to decide, you know, I'm going to say yes to these opportunities, whether they scare me, whether they're sort of tangential to what I do. I'm going to say yes to things. That's a great idea, Eric. And Jamie says that volunteering for new projects that you're passionate about. Hannah is along the same lines, volunteering to do presentations or create programming for other librarians. And exactly, Eric, whenever something is asked that's outside of your comfort zone, it can absolutely be a learning experience. There are a lot of really great ideas here. Talking to faculty and assisting them with their needs, hosting workshops and presentations. These are all really great ideas. So things like volunteering to serve on committees or in other roles that are needed, especially if you've seen a call for volunteers come up more than once, people will be really grateful for your help. When you see calls for conference proposals and have something that fits the topic, submit a proposal and present. Run for professional organization offices. As with volunteering, people are always in need of help. And it's a great way to get your name out there and to work in significant and impactful ways with a variety of people in places that you might never have otherwise met. Monica says, present at a conference. And if it's your first time, do it with a colleague. Exactly. Similarly, if you want to get into to a committee in a professional organization or run for office, find a section or a committee or an organization that someone you know is part of. Because then, you know, it just feels a little less daunting when you'll be doing it with someone you know. But whatever you do, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Remember that everyone started in that same place. Anyone who is in a high position in an organization, or who presents a lot, or who is giving a keynote or whatever, they've all started at that same point. They all had a first opportunity, a first time to put themselves out there. So it's everybody understands how that feels. And absolutely, Velapan says that if you're presenting, you'll get an opportunity to work with other colleagues from other libraries. And that's a great way to network and to learn from each other. Absolutely. The fifth of the six steps forward, I think, is communication skills. The need for good communication skills at all levels of an organization, but especially in leadership, cannot be overstated. While you'll use your communication skills in leadership, stating clear priorities for staff, or writing grant applications or hiring justifications, writing effective emails, the value of a well-written email cannot be overestimated. It's not something that you want to wait to focus on until you get to the top or are on your way up that ladder. It's something that's going to help you get there. Being able to communicate your value clearly and effectively, which is something that you're going to hear about in this afternoon's session, can help you advance your career. I just attended a workshop yesterday on communicating up, and it gave great strategies to on how to communicate up the chain in a meaningful and productive way. Whether you're communicating with a supervisor or a director, your board, or a county manager, the kind of guidance and practice that we got in that session can be invaluable in helping you be heard and helping you to make requests that garner a positive outcome. So speaking of workshops, take time, make time, really, for professional development whenever you can. I'm probably preaching to the choir here because all of you are in this professional development workshop and may be here throughout the day, but professional development is so important to advancing your career. And we'll talk a little bit more about growing your knowledge and skills in just a moment. But finally, you want to start to build that momentum by setting your intentions or your goals. What do you want or need to improve? Or what skills do you need to grow? What do you want to try? Define it and make a plan to do it. Communicate with your supervisor, ask for support if it's needed and if it's appropriate. If you have a relationship with a supervisor that will allow for that. If not, and unfortunately, sometimes that's a barrier for some of us, make time on your own time to do those things. And as you're communicating your plan or working toward your goal, make sure your effort backs up your intention. Always advocate for yourself. Have the evidence and the examples of why you think you should do this, how you can achieve it, what the benefits will be. That's going to be invaluable to moving forward. So let's take a few minutes to think about your first step forward. Think about one way that you could start to build forward momentum today and jot it down, flesh it out a little bit on how you might start. And then if anyone's interested in sharing their idea, go ahead and share it. So we'll just take a minute to think about how you could build forward momentum. It might be one of the ideas that we just talked about, or it might be something that hasn't been mentioned. David says that he wants to get involved with NCLA, but he's not sure where to start. Oh, David, you are starting in the right place, my friend. I will tell you that. I've been involved with NCLA for probably close to 15 years in a very large number of roles. NCLA is always looking for volunteers, for people to help, volunteers for the conference and things like that. So definitely email me after the session and we can talk more about how you can get involved with NCLA. Dana says that finding an area that you find interesting and want to know more about is a great way to get started moving forward. Eric mentions that he recently set up appointments with his library dean and the college executive director of effectiveness and innovation about future leadership opportunities, things to learn, skills to focus on. And that's great. That's actually something that we're going to touch on in this upcoming section. So that's always a good way to move forward. And Hannah agreed to be put on the ballot for 2 different roundtables with NCLA. That's terrific. I know that especially this year, NCLA has been really hard pressed to find folks to volunteer, to run for office, to serve on committees, because honestly, everybody's tired. Everybody is pushed to the limit. But Just because you're volunteering, just because you're serving, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be super intense or super time consuming or overwhelming. So definitely, as Velapan says, just join as a member first, step your toe in and get involved. There's always a need. Okay, so now we're going to move on to talk about the importance of self-awareness and of embracing the uncomfortable in advancing your career. This is the intersection of negative and positive, where you're seeking out what you might traditionally think of as negative feedback from others, or pursuing uncomfortable situations, but essentially leveraging them to make positive changes and fruitful career moves, because that's feedback's essential and intended purpose, to produce positive change. So we're going to start with understanding the growth mindset. Is anyone familiar with the concept of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, and wants to give a really basic overview for folks who might not be aware? Okay, so the idea is that people with a fixed mindset believe that they are what they are. Their intelligence and their skills and their knowledge are set and unchangeable. They strive to be right and to look smart and to never fail. And really, SJ and Tammy nailed it for the growth mindset. Being open-minded, seeing opportunities for change and growth. Yes. A person with a growth mindset believes that there's always more to learn, more skills to develop, no matter what position you're at or what level you're at. They believe that challenges and criticism lead to growth and failure can be learned from. Essentially, that these negatives are positive. So let's look at how self-awareness comes into play with this. When we're self-aware, we can see clearly and acknowledge honestly where we need to grow. With that growth comes the forward momentum that we can use to advance our career. Absolutely, Velapan, growth mindset is an asset. And that starts with seeking negative feedback. And when I say negative feedback, I'm not talking about asking people to tell you everything that's wrong with you or telling yourself that you did a terrible job at that NC Live presentation you gave today or anything like that. What I mean here is to find a trusted colleague or leader or critical friend to give you honest feedback about where you need to improve or grow. For example, when my previous library director announced that she was leaving the organization, I asked her if we could set up a time to talk about what areas she felt I needed to improve in and what experience I should work on beefing up if I ever wanted to become director. Her feedback was honest, it was extremely helpful, and yes, some of it stung, but not because it wasn't delivered professionally and respectfully and with good intention, but because, if I'm being honest with myself, it was right on the money. It was stuff that I needed to hear in order to turn weaknesses into opportunities for growth. So yes, Tammy says that constructive criticism is asking, what can I do better? Trust the negative feedback that you get. If I hear negative feedback in an evaluation for a presentation that I gave, I'm not going to simply discount it and say, oh, that's not true. I wasn't like that. The session wasn't like that, whatever. Lend it a little bit of credibility. Say, okay, if it was like this, what can I do differently? What can I do better? How can I change next time so that this doesn't happen or that it's not perceived to have happened? The second negative that can help you grow is being uncomfortable. I really feel that too much comfort just leads to complacency. And let's be honest here, you're not doing very much in the way of growth when you're comfortable. You have to venture into uncomfortable territory to grow. Those growth opportunities come when you're stretching, when you're reaching for that next level, whether that's a knowledge level, skill level, or job level. Growth equals change, and change is uncomfortable for a while until it's finally comfortable. And that comfort can either come from mastery of a new skill or a new goal, and then you can think about the next uncomfortable thing, or it can just come from getting used to being uncomfortable, like with Eric's year of yes kind of thing. Saying yes to things that you know will help you grow just puts you in that growth mindset where, uncomfortable doesn't feel so bad. It doesn't feel as daunting when you embrace it. And as Velapan says, negative feedback always helps us for internal and professional growth. Absolutely. So I sort of take that same mindset as Eric, saying yes to the opportunities that come my way, no matter how daunting or new or a little bit scary they might be. And it gets easier. So seek out those opportunities that scare you a little bit, that you wonder if you can do or if you're qualified for. And especially if someone has asked you to take on a role or an opportunity that feels a bit daunting and overwhelming, take it, because that means that they have seen something in you that they think can meet that challenge. So the final piece of the negative / self-awareness puzzle that I want to talk about is understanding when it's time to move on. And not just move on, but also when stepping back into a downgrade might be the best course of action. We all want to be happy and successful in all aspects of our lives. We want to feel productive and engaged in our jobs and know that our current roles are right for us, whether that's short-term or long-term. It's really difficult to build forward momentum and engage in activities that can advance our career when our current position is draining or is a bad fit. So moving on or moving back can really feel like accepting defeat or failure, like the challenge of the role wasn't something that you could meet or overcome. But sometimes stepping back is the key to moving forward. And having the self-awareness to look at the situation practically and honestly is that first step. Look at the situation. Is unhappiness or stress or stagnation holding you back from being able to build that momentum? If so, where's the problem? And be honest with yourself. Is it your organization or position, or is your position just not a good fit? Or is your mindset the problem? Figure out which needs to shift and go where you can grow. To figure out your next step, decide on your priorities, what your job deal breakers are that you must have in a role or in an organization in order to be happy, where your skills or your passions lie, if not in the role you're currently in, and what aspects of a job you can find satisfaction without. I learned in my last leadership role what my deal breakers were and what I really wanted from my career. And it took a big shift, and it took a move back into a position that was a little lower on the career trajectory, but it was ultimately very worth it because I moved into a position within the state library where I could grow my skills and advance. And it was a culture and an organization that I felt really passionate about. As Tammy says, sometimes it seems like your mindset is all that you have control over. And as big an impact as your mindset makes on your career trajectory and on your forward momentum, it's really important. So even if that's all you have control over, That's the most important piece. So ultimately, moving into a position that might be a downgrade from where you are is a great strategy for advancing your career if it energizes you, if it gives you the capacity to do some of the things that we discussed earlier that'll help you build that forward momentum. It's a good idea if it challenges you, and if you can learn in the role and build or improve your knowledge or skill set or your professional relationships. So remember that challenges equal opportunities to grow, and growth is how we move forward. So I'll give you a minute to do our final think and share, to think about one thing that's happened in your career that you perceived as negative at the time. And then think about it through the lens of a growth mindset. How does it become an opportunity now that you think of it differently? And if anyone wants to share, I welcome it. Or if folks have any questions that they want to ask, we've got a few minutes left, and you can just put it in chat or raise your hand or just unmute and speak up. Thanks, Eric. He says that he really enjoyed the aspects of finding the place where your values and personality are aligned. It really does wonders for giving you the capacity and the energy to embrace that growth mindset when you're in a place, whether that's an organization or a position or whatever, where you feel like you fit together. Jamie says that not getting a promotion led her to better position herself for the job that she really wants. That's great. Sometimes having those really negative feeling moments are good pushes to get us to move in a direction we didn't know would be better. And yeah, Eric, sometimes you have to make the difficult decision to move on, because in the long run, it will be better for you. It will position you for more growth. Hannah says that working in an environment where growth wasn't encouraged motivated her to find a better fit professionally. That's terrific. When I hear from leaders who think that professional development and supporting the growth of their staff is not essential, that's a big red flag for me. I think professional development at every level is incredibly important. And I certainly support that with all of my staff. So thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts, everyone, and for interacting with me in this presentation today. I hope this has been a helpful session for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. You've got my contact information here on screen. And I know that Amelia is going to send out the slides, so you'll have my contact information forevermore, but feel free to reach out if there's anything that I can do for you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks a lot, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.